Good morning, everybody. Another episode of the Keep Going podcast, athletes shining a light on mental health. Super excited. Jason Rotello is in the building, and I love his background right off the cuff. So, Jason, tell me about that background first and foremost, man. Welcome.
Well, I figured since I had a little bit of a platform with you guys here today, I'd kind of promote a little bit of a cause that's close to me, and I'm a liver transplant recipient, and anytime I get a chance now, I promote and encourage folks to become donors.
I love
I didn't
that,
know a
man.
lot about it growing up, and you know time came when it was, when I was in need and I received an organ. And so it's just kind of giving back and there's not a lot of organs out there and there's a lot of people on waiting lists that could certainly use organs.
Well, I love that. And tell me about the hoodie, too. We're going through the whole merch and everything background. Tell me about the
Yeah.
hoodie.
So I don't know. It's, the whole viral, marketing stuff online. There's a company out there that's, selling a series of shirts and sweatshirts and it's the, dear person behind me shirts. And I like this isn't the typical one. I like this message because it's not only the brand of the company is geared around mental health, um, and suicide prevention and things like that. And this particular sweatshirt I really was drawn to just because it kind of covers both the mental and the physical side of it. So the front of it says you've got this, and um, the back of it reads, "Dear person behind me, there's only one of you. Look after yourself."
Yeah.
Um, and I feel like especially for me and where I'm coming from, both the mental and physical side of your health are super important.
I love it, Jason. And we're diving right into this. Jason, obviously, you've been a big person in my life. Softball coach. I work with your daughter, Bryn, out here at Athletes HQ. You're in Hananiga family, which if you follow the podcast, you know my wife was a
Yeah.
all-state and then went on and was an all-American and all the Hananiga community stuff. And she does lessons at HQ as well. And then obviously you're involved a lot with your son's soccer now as well. You go out and watch him play and just a great community guy, a great family guy, someone that we've really rallied around last couple of years as I've known you. I gotta ask you, man, how do you have time to do everything? You're everywhere, brother. Talk to me about that.
Um, well, a couple things. I mean, I've been super blessed in, my career and working where I've got a super flexible schedule. I work from home. I'm not expected to keep, 9 to 5 hours. My expectation is to have a core set of hours throughout the workday where I can be contacted by customers and then just, kind of get your stuff done, right? So that gives me some flexibility in being able to show up and, attend whether it's my kids' events, other kids' events, which I'm super thankful for. It's it's been a game changer, and then over the last few years, early on in my career, I spent a lot of time working, startup companies and things like that. And so I spent a lot of time, sometimes away, sometimes working those 60 to 80 hour weeks. And, so I didn't have a chance early on, or I should probably say I didn't prioritize, you know, certain things. And I focused a lot on my career, which I don't regret. But now, life's a little different and my employer is on board and now I make a point not to miss things unless I don't have another choice. Just trying to show up and be there for the kids and for the family.
It's anybody, Jason. I think you're a great dad. I think, if I'm lucky enough one day, God willing, to be a dad, I'd like to be a dad like you, man. You're there for your kids, you're there for your wife, you're there for athletes you've coached, you're there for people in the community. It's refreshing, man. And I appreciate you always for that. It really goes above, way above and beyond the normal things. Jackie, I got to go to you here. Obviously, you're meeting Jason for the first time today. Hopefully, you like what you're hearing. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I love the hoodie and I like the notion of a lot of times people either go all in on the work or all in on the family side of it. And it sounds like you've kind of found a balance within doing both those. Is there anything that you do in your daily life to make sure you're checking all your boxes. And then, like you mentioned with the hoodie, like taking care of yourself as well.
Um, just to check as far as checking the boxes, I try to plan as much as I can up front. I know I've got this and this and this. I can catch an hour here to, you know, run out to lunch with a couple of friends. Just try to schedule things as much as I can so that, hey, I know Luca's got soccer practice or he's got a game or we've got a tournament this weekend. And I'm gonna have to bail out early on a Friday. So I try to schedule, work meetings around my personal schedule. And that's not I'm gonna say that's not typical and that's not normal. I've got an employer who really, rallies behind, me and what I'm trying to do. And it's not just me, it's our whole company that does that.
No, very nice. And I think staying organized is something that, I don't know, can help remove a lot of clutter, can help remove a lot of external stuff. If you prioritize what you want to do and you stay organized and you start every day with a basic plan, not saying it's always going to go by, with the weather coming in, it's -20 out here. Things are not going how they were supposed to go at the start of the weekend. But my point is, you'll have a template, you'll have an idea of what you're looking to do and execute the best you can. Where I want to go next is I want to learn a little bit more about early on, Jason. Like I know a lot about you in your adult life.
Sure.
Talk about when you started in sports, when you started in your profession, what you wanted to do growing up, kind of wise. Talk about early on years, Jason.
Sure, sure. So I grew up, my family ran a small restaurant in Loves Park. And we lived in Rockford. So early on, I would go to school and my parents or grandparents or whatever would pick me up and I'd go to the restaurant and do homework at the restaurant. I kind of grew up at the restaurant. So most of my friends growing up were from from schools out closer to the restaurant. And I bring that up because basically right next door there was a place called Rotation Station. It was like a roller skating rink turned early skate park. And I spent a lot of time growing up as a skateboarder, playing baseball. Those were kind of my two sports growing up. I was, if I'm being honest, I was definitely a better skateboarder than I was a baseball player. And I took it pretty seriously. I mean, I did a little bit of competitive skateboarding and uh, that skate park, building the ramps, building some of that skate park. I remember being a, you know, 8, 9-year-old kid, carrying boxes of nails or helping carry wood to build some of that stuff. I mean, I was too young to do a lot of the heavy lifting, but I mean, I remember watching that place kind of come into existence as a young kid, and I mean, I loved it. I remember skating with, at the time, you know, most of the people that I skateboarded with were way older than me. Folks in their late teens, early 20s, and so I had a lot of folks kind of take me under the wing, and it was fun. I remember if you're familiar with there's a festival in Loves Park every year, Young at Heart, and I remember
Mhm.
I remember going out there and skating demos for people at the festival and just it was a great childhood. I'll see you tonight. I'll dig up a I think funny thing is back then there was no like people weren't recording everything, like
Right.
so I don't have a lot of those things. Like I don't have a lot of photos or things in memory, but I'll bring something tonight. I'll find it. You'll get a kick out of it. It's a picture of me as like a little bitty kid skateboarding, and I mean it's uh it's it's a fun memory to like look back on when I see the photo. So yeah, I did that. I played baseball. I mean, not at a super high level. I was good, but if you look at these kids today and like when I was at the height of playing baseball compared to what kids are today, I mean it's night and day. I would have never competed with with the kids that are putting the work in and doing it today. So honestly, in my late, mid-teens, I kind of stopped playing baseball in favor of umpiring fast pitch.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of where I got my my introduction to fast pitch softball, and it's just a sport I've loved ever since.
Yo, see, this is why I love this podcast, Jackie, because like I've known Jason for a while now, indirectly, now directly. I would have never guessed that, dude. I didn't know that you were a skateboard guy. Obviously, your post is now going to get a skateboard emoji next to it, which I think is freaking awesome. But like, no, that's amazing. And then obviously the fast pitch background as well. All right, Jackie, obviously you worked in the restaurant business. You still do from time to time. You got a connection there, probably.
I laughed when you said you grew up in the restaurant because I worked out of college for a year or so at an awesome family-owned restaurant south of Boston, and I immediately thought of the owner's son when you said that and how they kind of like grow up in the restaurant because I feel like it's such a community feel when you're growing up in the restaurant. Like
Absolutely.
I started working there. I knew like two people I left. I'm like I like call them all my cousins at this point. So I love the restaurant notion there, and I love the fact that you skateboarded too. Who was the other guy, Pat, we had on here that skateboarded
Oh my goodness,
a while back?
you're really
Community
stretching
Co.
me. Oh my
He
God.
made t-shirts with us.
Community. Yes,
Yes, yes.
community.
Anyways, any
Yeah,
skateboarders
shout
from
Matt
like
out. Shout Matt out. Sorry,
yeah,
Matt. Sorry. It's
he's
early. It's cold out, Matt. I love you, brother. 166 episodes in. You got to give me a second.
I'm
Go
like
ahead.
this is like the second skateboarder we've had on, but no, I love skateboarders. I think that it's one of those sports where it's because it's so limited, like there are only so many skate parks and you have to like meet up at the skate park and be outside. I feel like it's such a communal sport. So I think that's cool that you skateboarded. Do you still do it all now or you kind of washed?
No, health doesn't allow me to do it anymore. I think I'd kill myself at this point if I got
Jackie,
on a
he
board.
carries on. He carries on the skateboarding look, though. I just cannot believe I never put this into how did I not get that vibe from you? It just is making me upset. Also, while we're here, Matt Roberts, the dude that came on that was a skateboarder prior, and I forgot his name 30 seconds ago. I shot that episode in the Coors Field bleachers. I cannot believe I forgot about that till right now. Never forget that episode. Jason, this episode's about you, man. So I want to stay on it though.
Sure.
Obviously, early life, man, lots of sports, kids playing sports now. Over the last couple years, things have been going on. I
Sure.
want to go to the keep going moment, talk about what's been going on health wise. If that's your keep going moment, if you want to elaborate on that, shine some light on that for our viewers.
I mean, I think very much this is going to be tough. So
I
give
got
me a
you, brother.
second.
We're here for you. Let's go.
Um, well, I talk about this all the time. I'm not kind of surprised this is hitting me right now.
We love you, brother. That's what we do it.
So I mean, certainly in life, lots of keep going moments, right? I don't know, and I think for most people, it's probably not just like one single moment. I mean, there are, you know, my mom passing away when she was, 48. I was 19 years old. I was in school. I certainly could have stopped there and um, you know, left school, got into the family business. I chose not to. I chose to keep kind of going on my path just because um, I had I don't know, just a lot of growing up in the restaurant business, you kind of learn sometimes what you don't want to do as well. And I watched my family, kind of work themselves to death, and so I knew that wasn't, in my cards. So, I made the choice to stay in school, keep plugging along until I got, kind of got into my career in IT and computer science, and so that I think early on that was kind of that first keep going moment. And then recently with the cancer diagnosis, well, even before that. So I don't even know how much of this I've told you in the past, Pat. So growing up, probably fifth, sixth grade, I always knew that I had some sort of health issues going on. I waited way too long because with, Crohn's and colitis, it's a disease and a topic you don't really, it's not fun to talk about. No one wants to hear you talking about going to the bathroom and, those kind of things. So as a younger kid, I kept my mouth shut. it got to the point at NIU where I went to school where uh, I would make sure that my schedule was on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays as much as I could, because Tuesdays and Thursdays at NIU, those were like an hour and 20-minute classes where on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, they were 50-minute classes. So I knew I could get through a 50-minute class, but chances are I'm not getting through an hour and 20-minute class, without having to leave and go to the bathroom. So I had to kind of, and it got to the point where my life was getting impacted enough where I finally saw the doctor, and that's when I was diagnosed with Crohn's disease. Um, and they got me on meds. Things were looking good, and I went from probably that was around 2000 time frame, and so I had like 13 good years. And I went in for a routine checkup, and they told me I had some cell changes in my colon, and uh, and I had a choice. I could roll the dice, and maybe everything works out, or even though I wasn't there yet and I didn't have full-blown cancer, I could choose to, remove my entire colon. And you know, as a fairly still young adult, I mean, that's a huge choice. I mean, I was married already. Uh, Actually, I wasn't married yet. That was 2013. So, or no, I was way married. 20. Oh man, I'm losing. Abby's gonna kill me. I'm losing
No,
my
no, no, you're good. I was gonna say,
anniversary.
Jason, this is a great time to shout your wife out. Like this is a great time to shout her out.
Yeah, no, she's been super supportive, and without her, I'm not sure I get through a lot of what I've been through. But I made the choice to have the surgery to remove my colon. So that was kind of the start of my whole health journey. And things went great. I had something called J pouch surgery, so I didn't end up with an ostomy for the rest of my life. And things were great up until uh, up until the day they shut everything down for COVID. I had been having some not feeling well, and so we'd been doing a lot of testing, and it turned out that at the time of my colon surgery, they diagnosed me with something in my liver called PSC, and it's like if you think of heart disease and your arteries kind of hardening, and it's the same thing with your bile ducts throughout your liver. And so we were monitoring that. It's a disease that you might not ever have any symptoms of your whole life, and you go through your whole life and there's no issue, or it could lead to a pretty serious cancer called cholangiocarcinoma. And you know that was the path that I ended up going down. I was diagnosed the day they shut everything down for COVID. So let me tell you a surreal and eerie feeling when you're supposed to have a video call with your doctor, and the schools are shutting down, businesses are shutting down that day, and then you get a call saying, "Hey, would you mind coming into the office today? Can we change your video call to coming into the office?" And so I went in. I knew what they were going to tell me, obviously at that point, and they got the diagnosis where I had cancer. And so while everything else was shutting down, I was starting a pretty tough um, course of treatment. So
Yeah.
I had to go through chemo and radiation, and luckily I met the criteria. It's very strict criteria, very not a lot of folks who end up with the type of cancer are eligible for this. It's called the Mayo Protocol, and ultimately they treat it with liver transplant. Um, and so I went through the chemo radiation, I went through liver transplant. I'm not going to bore you with all the details, but lots of complications, and I made it through the end of it. I went about 5 years, in remission, or cancer, no evidence of disease, I think they call it. And then back in 2024, things kind of ramped up again for me, and I ended up there was a mass growing in my pancreas, and so I went through another major surgery called a Whipple procedure, where they kind of replumb your whole inside, and so after that I went through chemo and radiation again, and we're about a year out from that, and yeah, it's been a tough ride. It's been it's not easy. There's, getting back to the keep going moment, there's plenty of, choices. I had a choice. Do I want to go? Do I want to have this surgery again, knowing what I've been through already? Do I want to do more chemo? Do I want to do more radiation? Um, and so, for me, the choice was always yes. But I mean, it's tough. I mean, I've had three major surgeries, um, two of which I wasn't sure I was going to wake up from. Uh, but I had, kids that I coached. I had my family. I had coworkers. I had friends. Um, and, with the support of them, here we are. I mean, you and I are talking, and Jackie, and you know, keep going one day at a time. I mean, I'm having, I had my surgery, like I said, and we're about 14 months out, and complications have started again. I've got drains sticking out of me, and I've got to go in every couple of weeks now to have those drain changes, and so I'm not gonna lie, it's a lot, but that's why I push like becoming an organ donor, from the athlete's perspective, like you know, athletes know their bodies probably more than anybody else out there. So don't, my advice would be absolutely don't ignore it. If something doesn't feel right, you don't, you're not feeling yourself, go to the doctor, go have it checked out. You're not quite there yet, Pat, but when the time comes and you need to, start doing, just your annual, or not your annual, but you hit that point where you need a colonoscopy or something like that. It's got a stigma. Like I said, no one likes talking about it, but it seriously saves lives. I've got a cousin who was diagnosed with colon cancer, and because she did all of her screening and did her, stayed on top of it, they were, colon cancer is one of the most treatable cancers out there if you catch it early. And, so by her doing, what she needed to do and getting her screening exams and stuff, saved her life. And like I said, it's not a topic people like to talk about, but man, it sure is important.
Yeah, I'm gonna go to Jackie here just to expand on that and unpack it a little bit. Thank you for being vulnerable and talking about it. You don't know where this is gonna reach to, and there's people out there that needed to hear that message today, which wasn't an easy one. So thank you. And then also from people struggling, mental, physical, spiritually, emotionally, that are going through stuff like this or have people in their world. I think it's powerful knowing what you do in your day to day with all that going on is amazing. I want to go to Jackie because obviously Jackie's never met you. She has questions for you that are important that
Sure.
go with this topic. I'm going to go to her. David Mitchell's mailbag. He's not here today. Dave's working, but Jackie, it's all you.
Yes. Well, first of all, yeah, thank you. You could have given a more surface level answer to that, and you unlayered it and unpacked it. And I think a lot of times we focus so much on, we get overwhelmed on the things that don't matter, and then we don't sometimes cover the things that do matter. And like you said, sometimes the things that matter are the ones that are the most uncomfortable to touch on and speak about. So God bless you, and thank you for talking about all that in your story. And I'm glad that you were able to share a part of that with us. Obviously, I had heard about you from Pat, who spoke very highly of you, but I'm glad I was able to hear some of it firsthand from you. Definitely was a good perspective to hear. And again, I appreciate you unlayering that and sharing that with us. And the one question I have, I guess, in terms of all this and where you're at and kind of what you just shared is when people go through things, deal with diagnosis is a big word, is like be positive with the people around you, make sure you're in a positive environment. In terms of the word positivity, how do you look at that differently now than you did before you were dealing with this illness?
I love that.
I mean, that's actually a great question. Honestly, I think I'm more positive now post-diagnosis than I think I ever was pre-diagnosis. And I don't know if that's a combination of me starting to coach and you know and encouraging that kind of mindset. Um, if it's just me being a little more like just in tune with what my situation is, and knowing that I'm going to make the best of what I have, what time I have left. Um, but yeah, I mean, there was a time in my life where like I don't think positivity would have necessarily been the first the first thing people asked about of me or said about me. But I mean, certainly post-diagnosis, seeing when I was first diagnosed, I was already coaching, and like the kids that we were coaching were young. They were 7 or 8 years old, and just to see, and I think most of them, didn't truly grasp kind of the gravity of my situation, but they kind of stood up. I mean, they helped me out more than, probably more than I helped them. Um, and yeah, and now I just, it's a choice, for sure. Um, you know, I could choose to just go crawl up in a ball and not continue, or get out there and live life. And oh man, sorry, this is
Oh,
tough.
we love you, brother. This is fantastic. Thank you for sharing this.
Um, I just I chose the route of going, and try to be positive, and
Yeah.
and just living living the way that I want to be remembered.
Yeah. I'm gonna let you do that right now. And I feel like if I didn't let you do this, I'd be missing out. You're such a big impact on so many people's lives. If you look back and I always talk about I lost a family member this week and it was whatever. It was tough, right? Trials, tribulations, things going on, tragedy, whatever. My point is you have two choices. You can have that victim mindset, or you can believe that, you know what? When my time comes, I've done everything I could to be a great person. And we see eye to eye on that. But the people along the way keep you going. The external things keep you going. That above, mine is my faith, of course, like that keeps me moving forward. I want you to shout out as many people as you can right now that have helped carry you during this journey. And it can be anything. The floor is all yours.
Sure. I mean, obviously, my kids, my family. Um, you know, I've got lots of friends in life, but I've got very few friends that are family, right? Your close inner circle. They've been a huge impact on me as well. Um, Beyond that, growing up, I had people that, in the restaurant business, we didn't take a lot of vacations. We didn't do a lot of things because my parents were always working. I had friends that their families took me in as if, you know, I was a part of their family.
Yeah.
And so I got to experience a lot of things because of that. And I got a lot of, kind of life lessons and mentoring, outside of what my family provided. And I couldn't, I don't think I would be the same person I am today without those folks, whether it was just, staying the night or, families taking me on vacation with them or, being out later than I should have and, setting a place for me at the dinner table, like, um, I've been lucky to have people around me that care about me my entire life. And so I'm trying to, hopefully do that for others. Just because, kind of the whole pay it forward, thing, but because I think it's the right thing to do. Um, and I want to shout out a couple other folks that are going through tough medical times as well. I've got a friend, Lindsay, who's dealing with recurrence of pancreatic cancer right now, and she's just a stud. She's an awesome person. Like the positivity that comes out of her, and knowing how much she's struggling. That I hate seeing her go through it, and I hope she uh, I hope she comes out on the other end of this, as good as she did the first time around. Um, like our friend Kristen, who's been dealing with leukemia for 13, 14 years, and just, you know, one of the most positive, just absolute stud people I know. She'd do anything for you, you know. And then um, I've got a friend Mitch who passed from leukemia. Seeing how he lived his life from diagnosis to when he passed was just, I mean, it's unbelievable. Even sorry,
We got you.
even seeing him on his sorry,
No, it's all right.
seeing him during his last days, he still had a smile on his face all the way up
Yeah,
to the end.
that's a beautiful thing. Yeah.
And so seeing and how he, fought his battle and how he lived, I'm not sure I would have done it the same way without seeing him.
Yeah. Yeah. We need those people. We need the people that have come before us, the people in that hometown, the people in those dugouts, the people in your circle, the people that are still, shout out. You said Lindsay and Kristen, right? Like shout out them. Like
Yeah,
I hope they're listening to this because this is so extremely powerful and it fires me up, quite frankly, because there's work still that needs to be done. And we're gonna have to rely on people that we care about to help get us there on some of those tougher days.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's sorry, this has been maybe a little bit of a
No, no,
little bit of a depressing episode,
no,
but
I
I mean, it's
disagree.
an important message.
Uh, Jackie, I'll let you cap us off today. But the point that I will make is I think there's so much beauty in this. I really do. I think it's authentic. I think it's vulnerable. I think you've taken this life with what's thrown at you and you've made it beautiful. And it's not always going to be, like we always say on this episode, sunshine and rainbows. It's not going to always be perfect, but this is the real. And this is why when we started this 3 years ago, these are the stories that we wanted to tell. So I'm very thankful that you're here sharing it. Jackie, go ahead, cap us.
Yeah, I think a good life is not always a good life isn't a sunny life. You don't get sunshine every single day of your life. And if you were, then kind of what's the point of that? It's not what you do on the days that are clear skies, sunny skies. It's what you do on the days where there's a storm and shit happens, and it's who you lean on and it's how you deal with it and how you go about those storms and how you weather them. And I think that you're a good example of kind of just going into the storm head on and being vulnerable and honest about it. And I think it's a reminder that, again, a lot of people need to hear because they get caught up in focusing on the what ifs or feeling bad about their own storms and wishing for sunnier days. And I don't think it's about that. I think it's about being honest about your own forecast and going into it head on with those around you besides you. And I think that you're doing just that. And I think you did a beautiful job today being vulnerable and sharing that. And I'm humbled to have heard a part of your story. And I know that the people in my circle will be humbled to hear it as well and learn something. So thank you for sharing everything you did today. And again, just unlayering everything because you certainly didn't have to.
Yeah. I'll say one more thing before we say goodbye on this episode today. It's funny. And we've really been blessed on this podcast to have amazing people on. We've had Olympians, Super Bowl champions, people that I like. I look back on episodes and I'm like, wow, we really had these people on. I woke up today and I had this feeling that we were going to go deep into this.
Sure.
And I have been smiling even through some of the toughest things that you've touched on. It's beautiful is the word that keeps coming to mind. And I could never thank you enough. Knowing you, I feel like I know you 10 times better after talking today. And I cannot wait to get this out to our audience. But Jason, anything else you'd like to say to our viewers today? We'd love to cap this off.
Just you know, try to try to live life for you. Um, don't get hung up on what, the external stuff. Kind of circling back to like the athletics part of it. We're going to go through slumps, on the field in life. Slumps don't usually last forever. You have, sooner or later you come out of them. So, you know, just keep working through it, get up, keep hammering away, and sooner or later you get out of that slump. Um, and I wish we would have maybe talked a little bit more on the kids and the athletic side of things. But know what you're doing at 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 years old. Enjoy the game. Don't take it too seriously, whether it's softball, whether it's basketball, baseball, whatever you're playing. Don't take it too seriously, right? Put the work in, but at the end of the day, remember you're playing a game that you love, and and take the lessons you learn from that into life. Most of us aren't going to go on to play, even at the collegiate level. Um, but but the lessons that you can take away and learn from what you get through athletics are certainly lifelong lessons. Part of the reason why I had Bryn, play, and I've kind of pushed and encouraged Bryn and Luca to play is not to see them go off and play in college or beyond. I wanted them to learn the life lessons of, you know, being responsible, showing up on time, putting in the effort, uh, having to answer to somebody, right? When through the coaching, I was the softer coach, and coaching with Nate, he was the harder coach. He pushes the kids, hard because he knows they've got it in them, and and that's a lesson to be learned. You might not always like what you hear, but sometimes you need to hear it, and just kind of keep pushing through. That's it.
Yeah. No, I'm glad you touched on that. I know the softball piece and the athletic piece is such a big part of your life. It's it's been cool once again to hear the other side of that, to hear about the umping and to hear about the skateboarding and then put a
Sure.
bow on it with your kids and Brian and Luca and your whole family. I know they're gonna listen to this and they're gonna be proud of their dad. And they love you, man. They do. They really do. And I've got on Brandon, and you've been in those cages. You sit by in the chair for every lesson. You're always there. I told Bryn early on, I'm like, hey, like we have to work hard here. And she's always answered the bell. And I know she gets that from her parents. So I could never thank you enough for that, for setting that standard and building that mold. And as I get kind of emotional here, I just loved it, man. And I appreciate you. That's all I got. And we'll end this
Uh,
one today.
I appreciate you guys having me on. Thank you.
Always. Jackie, Kappas.
Appreciate you coming on, Jason. Sharing that again. Anyone Pat speaks highly of, I know is going to be a great episode, and you definitely delivered. And since it's Sunday, go Pats.
Oh, here we go. I didn't even throw a go Pats in the beginning, so we had to throw one at the end. But once again, go Pats. People are talking about how we've single-handedly carried the Pats into this run. I'm just going to throw it out there. You've been there since week one.
Mhm.
Just saying.
Well, we don't have it easy because if we win, it's because we have an easy schedule and we played a backup QB. And if we lose, it's because, and if we lose, we're not going to hear the end about how the season was nothing because we lost to a backup QB. So we really can't win here.
Ah, this is another episode in the making, but I love you guys. And above all else, keep going. Everybody, have a great NFL Sunday. Let's get after it, everybody.
All right.